Welcome to episode 530 of the Autoblog podcast. Joining me today in studio is Reese Counts. What's going on?
Not much. Doing well on this nice Wednesday morning.
Wednesday morning. Hope you're enjoying this morning edition of the podcast. It's kind of like a morning show, right?
Yeah, doing this bright and early.
It's, we like it. So, and if you're on the West Coast, maybe you're just getting up at 6 a.m. there, you're getting that first spoonful of Cheerios. Well, hey, it's cool. And, of course, we'll have the replays on the site and on all of our social platforms, which reminds me, if you have questions, hit us up. We want to hear from you. Questions about what we're talking about, questions about cars that we're driving or you want us to drive. Hey, let us know. We want to hear from you. So let's jump right in. We got a big show, lots of cool cars, lots of big news in the car world. We're going to start with the Tokyo Motor Show, which is coming up next week. We're getting lots of news, teasers, things of that nature. One of the things that really keeps catching our eyes is the Mazda rotary sort of concept reveal news that's going on. We heard last week that it might potentially have a range extender if and when Mazda does this. The company kind of issued this comment, no comment thing saying they're going to do an electric car in 2019, but they wouldn't give any more details. But good news for enthusiasts, it sounds like rotary technology does have a future.
Yeah, so ever since the RX-8 died a few years ago, there's been rumors of a successor, an RX-9 or whatnot, using the rotary engine. So it's never really truly gone away, and Mazda's always been kind of wishy-washy about it. Yes, it's in development, but no, we don't have any plans for it. But it's cool that it's still there, and if they can use it as a range extender, just like a traditional gasoline engine, cool, awesome, the rotary lives on. All of the teasers that we've seen for an RX-9 look pretty awesome.
Right.
I don't know if it's what they're going to call it, but everything's moving to electrified hybrids, so if they can shoehorn that bit of Mazda heritage in there, I think it's going to be pretty awesome.
That concept they showed at the last Tokyo show was just awesome. It was a really great looking car. I think that's what I think rotary has to mean, and the RX sort of, whether it's a 9 or whatever, that's what I think Mazda needs to do with this, just this part of their business. It needs to be delve into that sports car heritage, but also, it's got to be forward looking. So if, rotary does end up being sort of the base, and then there's this range extended element. To me, that's a really good play. It's like what we're seeing with Mitsubishi and the Evo. They're using one of their great names, arguably their best name, their most iconic name, but it's going to be an electric crossover. So,
yeah, Mazda is an independent company. Now Mitsubishi's kind of got the backing of Nissan and Renault. Mazda's got to make do with very limited resources, and I think, for the most part, their entire product line is solid. But they don't really have any electrified vehicles.
Right. They really are lagging behind there.
And that's, they're doing some really awesome stuff with internal combustion with the compression engines. Compression ignition engines.
Right.
But yeah, they've got to do plug-ins, they've got to do hybrids, they've got to do some electrified vehicles if they're going to keep up, if they're going to meet all the standards. So yes, I'm kind of looking forward to what they're going to show next week.
Speaking of electrified vehicles, shifting gears to Volvo. Big news this week with the Polestar revealing of their performance brand. It's, the car that they showed looks gorgeous. You were kind of on the front lines of this. What's the latest here?
So Volvo, maybe a few months ago, announced that Polestar, formerly an independent tuner, that was bought by Volvo, is going to become its own, Volvo-owned badge.
AMG or something.
Yeah, it's going to be electrified performance cars. So this is their first vehicle, the Polestar 1. There's going to be a 2 and a 3, which is going to be like a sedan and a crossover. But this is the first one. It's a 600 horsepower hybrid coupe, which
sounds good to me.
Awesome. 600 horsepower, 737 pound-feet of torque, going to all four wheels.
That'll rip your head off.
Out of it's a turbo 2-liter. This is the same basic powertrain that is all the T8s for, so the XC1690 and S90 and whatnot. So, it's really cranked up. The concept looks amazing. It's pretty much the Volvo coupe concept that we saw a while back, but
About
that's
4 years ago in Frankfurt, yeah.
I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
No. Which harks back to the great Volvos of the late 50s, early 60s. So
Yeah.
it's the right look for them.
My only complaint about it is if they're doing Polestar as its own independent thing, I don't think there's enough on it to separate it from Volvo. It looks like a Volvo, save for the Polestar logo. That said, sounds like it's going to be amazing. But the big news, I think, actually with it is the subscription structure, like the fact that we've been trying to figure this out on the site. If you can buy one, if you can only rent one with their lease, but the way they're doing it is you get a 1, 3, or 5 year subscription. You pay for it, and you get insurance and maintenance and the car, and everything's included for this one price. I guess it's sort of like a lease, but everything's encompassed in this. But at the end, you give the car back to Volvo. But what about people that just want to purchase cars?
Right.
So we reached out, and they said it's kind of unclear. Like some outlets, some people within Volvo have said, yes, you can buy one. Some are like, oh, it's only a subscription. So still trying to figure this out. But either way, it's a very neat and interesting concept.
It's some really good reporting. Really appreciate the work the team's doing. So check that out on our site. It's an evolving story. It's a fluid situation. Autoblog.com. Check all this stuff out. This is really interesting, I think. It's a performance brand. It's a performance division. Generally people don't necessarily, I think, want to rent those cars. I think, you're looking at people who, even if these perhaps don't end up being collectibles, that's the mindset you approach buying a car like this with. It's this is a big deal. This is something, it's a coveted purchase, something you want, you're excited to own, and you're not thinking of, cashing out in 3 to 5 years. But reading between the lines, I think Volvo is looking at just this, future automotive ecosystem where a lot of people just don't want to own cars, and they don't think that's going to, depend on the type of car. It's going to be you're just going to want to sort of, subscribe to a car for 3 to 5 years, and then you'll move on. Whether that's some sort of mobility pod or this 600 horsepower coupe that's awesome, they're just taking sort of a neutral, agnostic approach, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the way technology is moving at the pace everything's advancing. I mean, look at smartphones. Most people get a new one every 2, 3, 4 years. Cars maybe are going to be the same way, where you just kind of, if you pay the subscription, you don't have to worry about selling it at the end. You just continue to pay your price, and you get a new car after a certain amount of time. And I think that's kind of where Volvo is leaning. But to your point, what about the people that just want to own one? What about the people that want to collect these, want to have it and it be there for as long as they'd like to own it? Because I personally, I prefer owning as opposed to leasing. I've never leased. I've bought every vehicle I've ever owned. So it's an interesting concept.
There's some financial considerations too. Not everybody wants to have some sort of fixed cost built into their monthly structure. Some people literally save for a vehicle and they want to put down their 20 to 40 grand and walk out of the dealership. You don't want to subscribe to it. Perhaps that's not the majority of people, especially in our current economy. But I mean, there is a segment of people that, in some way or form, want to own the car. So I'm a little skeptical about that. But as I kind of sort of try and put myself into their shoes in the way just, these sort of macroeconomic trends are going, I see what they're doing here. It's just, to me, it's aggressive, and I think they're ahead of the curve, in fact, at doing it with a performance car. I know this, this subscription program that Volvo is really looking at, it's going to be the XC40 is where it essentially launches. That, to me, is the more logical platform for this, but we'll see. It's changing times, and I think it's aggressive to do this with a car like this, a sports car like this.
Yeah, I think to your point about the XC40, cars like that are more of a commodity, where
iPhone 7, iPhone 8.
You don't really collect them. It's just a crossover. A nice one that looks really great, but it's a crossover. All that aside, though, the car itself looks awesome.
I agree.
Cannot
Totally.
wait to drive this one.
I'm really excited about what Volvo has been doing lately. It seems like everything they've done has looked really good. Everything we've driven has basically driven pretty greatly, driven well.
Yes.
It's it's right now. I think they're on a bit of a roll. I think they're dabbling in different parts of sort of evolving technology, whether it's autonomous, whether they're ramping up some of their plug-in hybrid things, and I think they're in a good place.
Yeah, I mean, ever since like Ford kind of got rid of them a few years ago and they were picked up by Geely, Geely has just given them boatloads of money and let them do like all the engineering themselves. And I'd say every product since like the XC90 came out 2 or 3 years ago now has been like a home run.
Exactly. So we'll leave it there. A little more darker news. We've been hearing, basically this news came out over the weekend, I think, that Tesla fired hundreds of employees, which is surprising considering they have been very ambitious about their growth plans. They're trying to get the Model 3 out, in critical mass, and they have not really delivered as many or sold as many or produced as many, any metric you want to use, as they said they would. So this is a troubling sign. I don't quite get what's going on there.
Yeah, the reports are saying 400 employees got fired. I mean, that's got to be a sizable chunk of like Tesla's entire like employment structure. Like, it's unclear about what happened, if it was just bad reviews, but like, I mean, there's always been talk and rumors of like how bad like it is to work for Tesla and the poor working conditions, and like it's one of those places that you work because it's great on the resume, but not that great to work there. So I don't think this is doing anything to feed into that. But yeah, it's been interesting news, especially since the Model 3 came out. Production numbers have been off. People are getting fired. I'm wondering what the rest of the year is going to look like for them.
I think they need to have a strong Q4 here to really give investors confidence. It makes little sense to me to promise all these great things, show a really good-looking car. I mean, I think we're all excited about the Model 3, but then sort of have these hiccups. You've seen, I think, a lot of skepticism in the industry, but I think that also gets tempered by the fact that, like, they get so much good media coverage that some of the stuff gets glossed over. A General Motors executive, I had some pretty strong comments. I think he said that Elon Musk is just full of crap. And that was like, I think he was specifically referring to autonomous technology. But we put that story up on Twitter, and I noticed a lot of people were saying things like, well, just on autonomous stuff. Like, I think there's this like sort of vocal part of the industry that just is kind of against Elon Musk. And I think in some ways you see, when you see things like this where they're firing people and they're struggling to meet their production targets, I think there's some people who are probably like sort of cheering against them too.
Yeah, the problem I have with Tesla is there's a lot of hubris there. There's the base vehicles, like the powertrain technology, the styling, is really fantastic. And then you add stuff like Falcon doors and like the giant tablet in the Model 3. Like, right. I just want them to build like a traditional like car with a really awesome powertrain, like a Model S with like, now without any of the add-on stuff, the stuff to make it unique. Just build a regular car and stop trying to be like innovative on everything. No, we don't need to reinvent the door, literally.
So I'm going to disagree with you there. I think if you want that kind of car, you buy like, the Mission E when it goes into production, or you buy the Chevy Bolt. I think the reason Tesla exists is because literally every bumper to bumper, everything, they're trying to like break the eggs. They're trying to like, if it's broken, if it's not broken, they're trying to break it. They're literally, that's who they are and what they do. And I think they kind of need to maintain that true north, for their company. Now, might it be a smarter play to do what you're suggesting? Probably, because right now I think they're trying to do too much. Like if you look at just these production numbers, they're firing people, like they're not getting some of the blocking and tackling things right. Like the basics that you need to do to make cars, they're not getting that stuff right. So, but I mean, if you backtrack from who you are, I mean, maybe you're out of business in 2 years anyway, and you made compromises. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like part of why Tesla is what it is because the company is doing these new innovative things. I just fundamentally have a problem with the Falcon doors because it's an SUV. You can't put a roof.
Oh, it's a waste of
roof rack
totally
on.
design and engineering
So-
talent. They shouldn't have done Falcon doors.
But I get your point. I get trying to be new and innovative. But I don't like have a fundamental problem with Tesla. I like, for the most part, I like the way the cars drive. I like the way they look. The Model X is a little egg-shaped, but it's fine. And I don't think like I think a lot of the heat on Elon Musk is a little like overdone and a little unjust, not very justified. But we'll see.
Excuse me. He's the biggest celebrity by far in the auto industry. I mean, there's him, and then there's Mary Barra, who is, I would say, the opposite of Elon Musk. She's an excellent speaker. She's very poised. She's, you know, a perfect sort of like spokesperson for the industry. You know, she's the kind of person who could like run for Congress or Senate or president or something. Whereas Elon's like all over the place. He's on Twitter. You don't know what he's going to say. And then what he says like isn't what he says 2 months later. So, I mean, honestly, as a guy, like an industry watcher or a journalist, I love the fact that he's in the industry. You know, we need people like this to generate buzz. And, you know, I mean, right now, Tesla's a lightning rod. You know, they're sort of missing targets. They're laying off hundreds of people. I mean, that's, in the grand scheme of things, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but everybody's talking about it. And I saw a bunch of headlines yesterday about, you know, the Polestar EV. Immediately people are making this Volvo to Tesla comparison. It's literally every time somebody makes an electric car, they're a Tesla fighter, they're a Tesla rival. Well, no, they're not. Tesla's not the only company that makes electric cars. So, but there's this narrative that they're like the standard. So, I mean, it's a good place to be. We've been talking about them for 10 minutes. And, you know, how many people got laid off, for example, when one of the factories around here just went on downtime? That was probably several thousand people, but that's not in the press. So
yeah, Tesla's got an image problem in both directions. There's a lot of people that praise them without seeing the faults with the company.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that can't even like look past some of the downsides to see what they are doing that is innovative. Yeah, I think they've really kind of got to work on their image. But then again, I don't know how much they actually care.
I think their image right now is polarizing, it's divisive, but I think in this case, all press is good press because, I mean, they don't advertise, they barely have any sort of media presence with us. So this is, I mean, but people are talking about them. So, I mean, they must be doing something right.
Yeah.
On that note, let's move along to another, I don't know, is this a Tesla rival? I don't know. These are the cars we've been driving this week. We're going to transition to the 2017 Hyundai Sonata plug-in hybrid vehicle. Really nice sedan, lots of capability. It's, you know, it came through the week. A bunch of the staff members got through it. I enjoyed it. I think this is a really good product for the times where it's a Sonata, but it offers you some plug-in capability if you want it. It it offers more efficiency. It offers but otherwise it offers the functionality of a Sonata. So it's a good-looking car too.
Yeah, I've been a big supporter of Hyundai and Kia in the past few years. I think their product line nearly across the board is very solid. I don't think you need to like qualify them as a budget or like a value proposition anymore. I think they compete, genuinely compete against Toyota and Honda when it comes to like solid products. And I like the Sonata a lot. This generation was a little more conservative than the previous one, but the 2018 refresh has done a lot to fix that. But the car itself is really good. I like the interior. I like the way it drives for the most part. And like you said, the PHEV is really of the times. It's what people are wanting, and if you can if it works for you, get one, drive it with electric range most of the time. It's a great little car.
It's a smart, I think it's a smart play for Hyundai because this hits sort of two different markets. You want a Sonata? Well, do you want the traditional powertrain or do you want the plug-in hybrid? Or do you want, like, maybe you're a hybrid buyer, you're doing some research and you're looking at the Prius, you know, the Volt, the Leaf, all the normal, you know, suspects, and they're like, oh wait, there's this Sonata plug-in thing. Well, I should probably check that out. So I think it kind of hits, you know, from both angles, and that's a good thing. It's, you know, if you want it to be just a Sonata with this extra like electric capability, cool. If you want to have this like green car thing, because that's what you're looking for, it's, you know, very capable too. Looking at the numbers here, these are impressive numbers. 39 miles per gallon just with the gasoline engine, so that's very fuel efficient. 99 mpge, which is the EPA system for rating powertrains that are, you know, hybrids. So that's impressive too. It gives you, you know, plenty of range here, and 27 miles. That's the number I'm looking for, all electric. And Hyundai, which is a pretty good move here, I think, is giving you a lifetime hybrid battery warranty. So right now there's a lot of, you know, like concerns about what happens with these batteries. How long are they really going to last? What happens when they stop working? It's just, people are confused about it. But Hyundai is, you know, going to stand behind the batteries. So I think that's a smart move for them. It's a differentiator too.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that really like helped boost them in the early 2000s is like they had a problem with reliability. So they introduced the 10-year, 100,000 mile warranty and say, hey, we're going to back our products for a decade. And I think this is just kind of an evolution of that. Like, people are concerned about batteries, don't worry about it. We're going to cover it for the life of the vehicle. It's great. I'm happy to see them really kind of moving forward. And like the Sonata is, I think there's 5 powertrains. I think there's one naturally aspirated engine, 2 turbo engines, a hybrid, and a plug-in hybrid. I mean, it's a full range vehicle.
Baskin Robbins, man.
Yeah.
All the flavors you want.
There's one for everybody. But yeah, I like the Sonata and I like the plug-in Sonata. So just always happy to have it in the fleet.
Absolutely, absolutely. One complaint, I went down to get in the car and somebody had parked it next to the charger, didn't plug it in. I was like, come on guys, you had one job here. It's next to the charger. But it's okay, it's okay. And we've talked probably a little too much about electric cars.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, this is the legit spec sheet. Audi R8 Spider, meat and potatoes, 540 horsepower, 398 pound-feet of torque. It's bright red, it's the Spider. There's carbon fiber, fangs coming out of every angle. I love this car.
Yeah, I've been saying it, we do the live drives every week, and so go to our Facebook page, go to the site, watch some of the live drives that we host every week. And I've been trying to get like all the sports cars in before it gets really cold in Michigan. And like last week, it was actually kind of nice for the second half, and convertible and like sports car, God. But driving the Audi was awesome. I had the top down even when it was like 50 degrees outside, and you roll the windows up, turn the heated seats on, you're fine. But yeah, the R8's awesome. I hadn't driven one since the original V8 manual, which
wow, that's a gutsy car.
It's a great car. But I drove that when it came out. I knew some people at the Audi dealer where I lived at the time who let me get behind the wheel of it, and still think I might try to find one of those in a few years. But yeah, this one's great. It's got the V10. It's sort of like it's based on the Lamborghini Huracan. It's got a same version of the V10, same platform, but very different cars. The Audi is very civilized, very kind of buttoned down, very easy to drive, where the Huracan's a little hairy. I mean, what did you think about it?
So let's see, Lambo versus Audi. I would probably take the R8 just because when I see this car, we'll get that comparison right out of the way. When I look at them side by side, the Lambo is like, I don't know, I've seen Lambos. Maybe I sound like too much like a car journalist, whatever, but like the R8 to me, still like a decade on here, still has like a really special look. Like we were doing a video and photo shoot with this car yesterday, and I'm just like literally at one point like standing in this clearing in this park, sipping coffee, looking at the R8. And like, I mean, that's just, it still stands out. It's still something different, something special. And I think that's great. I drove it back yesterday in rush hour traffic, and like you were saying, it can be pretty comfortable. It can be, as docile as you want it to be. Suspension doesn't abuse you too much. But, on those stretches of road where I could open it up, like, holy cow, man, V10, oh, that's awesome. I mean, sounds good. It's obviously powerful. It's, right behind your ears, which is pretty wild. And it's just a riot to drive.
Yeah, I was blown away about the ride quality of this car, especially because it's got the optional 20-inch wheels. So it's got no sidewall. But this might be the best riding sports car I've driven probably all year. I mean, it's
wow, high praise. Okay.
I was especially over this cracked pavement. Where I live, it's kind of even worse. Yeah, the R8 was phenomenal. But yeah, that V10, it really makes you lament the loss of naturally aspirated engines.
Yeah.
I mean, I like turbos and I like torque and I like that low down power, but God, the way that engine builds revs and really just pulls all the way to the top, that linear power delivery. God, I miss naturally aspirated engines. Yeah, the car is awesome. My biggest complaint about it is there's not as much drama as I would like from a sports car. I like it to be a little hard edge. The Audi's it's almost too easy. You can drive it really fast and really push it, and you're not going to lose any control. And I like to work for just a little bit, but I don't know. I haven't spent much time behind the wheel of the Huracan to make a call one way or the other, but I could definitely drive the R8 every day.
It's, to your point, the only really challenging part is visibility. You're low to the ground, obviously. There's some pretty big, pillars in front of you, and that's about it. I mean, that's the only challenge. It's fairly comfortable, as long as you calibrate your brain that you're driving this, low to the ground supercar. But yeah, the challenge is not, it's a much different dynamic than, example, this video shoot we were doing yesterday, I drove the Cayman S out to there, and it's a manual 6-speed 350 horsepower Boxer 4. I mean, I love that car too, but that car you got to work a little bit more, whereas this thing you're it's a 7-speed S-tronic. You get in traffic and you just point it ahead, and for a while you're just cruising.
Yeah, you can kind of be dumb in this thing, just flat-footed out of a corner and quattro sort the traction out.
Right.
You're not going to lose control of this car unless you turn everything off and really do something stupid. But yeah, it's really, really special car. I like the size of it too. It's actually feels pretty compact.
Yes.
Especially compared to some of the other mid-engine cars we've had recently. That Ferrari we had in the spring was a really big car, actually.
Right.
Far more powerful, far faster, but just a really sizable vehicle. I think even the McLaren felt a lot bigger than this. It drove small, which is something I like. But yeah, to your point, the visibility, especially with the top up, is not great.
Right.
But, right. Even looking at the Monroney here, its fuel economy is decent. 15 city, 22 highway.
22 on the highway is not bad.
Yeah.
I mean, for a V10,
So I think this is genuinely a viable everyday car, supercar, and I think that's what the R8 has always been. I think you put it up against pricing-wise, this one cost with tax and or gas guzzler and destination $192,625. So closest makes no difference to $200,000, and that's an interesting price point. That's McLaren 570 GT.
Right.
That's Porsche 911 Turbo. Acura NSX. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff there, and they're all very different vehicles. I think the closest thing would be the Porsche. I mean, that's a car that does everything. It's really comfortable every day, supremely fast when you want it to be. I don't know.
I think I'd probably put the NSX a little bit closer, just because of the layout and the fact that the NSX is actually pretty forgiving as well. I can't, when it comes to putting the 911 into these conversations, I always go back to the fact, like, well, it's still a 911, you know, which is an awesome thing. But it's like, I don't know. I have a tough time putting it in the conversation with, like, you know, Lamborghinis, R8s, McLarens, even though based on pure performance, it's certainly capable of that. And its engine layout, too.
I guess because you can get a $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 911, a $200,000 one doesn't feel quite as special.
Right.
But because the NSX, because the R8, because the Huracan, because the McLaren don't really start for less than 170.
Yeah.
Like, you get into it, and even the base ones, because this isn't even the V10 Plus. This is just the standard V10 Spider. Feels special and different and new. So, great car.
Great car. We got to leave it there. If you have any questions about the R8, let us know. I think we hit that car pretty hard. And, you know, if you want to know more, though, hit us up. We'd love to tell you more. It's a fun car. It's a bright red Audi R8 with a V10. So, again, you want to know anything more beyond that, let us know. The video clip of the week is the Tacoma versus Tacoma video. Alex Kirstein and Chris McGraw and Alex Malberg, our video crew, went out there and filmed a pretty epic journey out there in the Pacific Northwest. A little bit of sort of past meets present. You know, I'm excited. I've seen this video. I've read the story. It was an epic journey. You know, wish I could have went along.
Yeah, it looked like a lot of fun.
I think the Tacoma is also a pretty awesome truck. You know, this is a time where small to mid-size trucks are really, you know, they're the sweet spot. So the Tacoma is right in that conversation with, you know, the Colorado, the Canyon, which is, you know, critical truck, the soon-to-come Ford Ranger. So it's a competitive segment. You know, the Ridgeline's kind of in there. It's a little bit of a different thing. But right now it's Taco Wednesday, apparently, so let's check this out.
I bought my Tacoma about a year ago with the intent of fixing it up, adding a few off-road bits, and taking it on some trails near my home in Seattle, Washington. After catching my truck up on some regular maintenance and replacing the front shocks, it's ready to hit some dirt. That's what brings us to the Pacific Northwest. We're going to be driving my 1998 Toyota Tacoma and this 2017 Tacoma TRD Pro. We'll be covering hundreds of miles of backcountry trails and mountain highways. Will the TRD Pro eclipse its predecessor, or will my first-gen truck hold its own?
That looked like a lot of fun up there. I'm told that Alex had to buy a chainsaw to get through some of those rough patches. Yeah, man, that sounds like quite the time.
Yeah, talking to Chris and Alex when they came back, seemed like they got into a little more work than they thought they were originally going to. But the video turned out really well, and the story too. It looked like a lot of fun.
I applaud them all for like dreaming this up too. Like at Autoblog, like we don't want to just like go on the manufacturer trips. I mean, we do, but a big part of what we do here is like that sense of adventure. You know, figuring out these cars, these trucks for ourselves, comparing them to the great predecessors of the past, and exploring the Pacific Northwest. So I think that all came together really nicely in this video. So it was really cool. Moving along, we're going to get to the segment we like to call Question of the Week. We're going to keep this tight, and we're going to be blunt. Question of the Week, what is up with Tesla? Exactly, that's a great answer right now.
I don't know what to do other than shrug my shoulders. It's, like I said earlier, they've got kind of an image problem. Like, they're behind on production for the Model 3. They've just fired 400 employees. But the cars, for the most part, seem to be doing well. The reliability seems to be up, because that was a major problem when it came out. Sales, it's not a sales problem, it's a production problem. So people want the cars. So
Right now, we don't know why these 400 people were fired. Reports are saying like, oh, there's just a lot of bad reviews. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like 400 people in a company that has, what, a couple thousand people just got bad reviews? Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So my take on this is it's more like something's going on. They're having a little bit of some sort of a hiccup with production and obviously something internally. The culture, they're having some problems with that. I don't think this is insurmountable. I think what's basically going to happen is they're going to, they probably have a plan. Like, I assume they didn't just wake up last weekend and broom these people. They, these are jobs that they just decide they don't need anymore, or they're going to get more people in to do them right away. And then I think, Q4 and then Q1 is going to be the litmus tests for them. They need to put points on the board at the end of this year. They need to deliver more than 260, which they built in Q3. They need to get several thousand of these things out by the end of this year, and then even more than that at the start of next year, because people have put money down on the Model 3. People have put reservations out there, and they're excited about this car. I mean, this is the difference right now between Tesla and Porsche and Chevy and BMW and everybody else who makes an electric car. Like, if you give, Chevy your money, you could walk into a dealership and buy a Bolt. There's no problems.
Right.
You get one. There's questions. I mean, if I put my money down for Model 3, I'd be a little concerned at this point if I was actually going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tesla's doing very well for being a new automaker, but building a car is very, very difficult. And like Chevy and Ford and Porsche, they've been doing it for decades. I mean, most of the major automakers have been around 70, 80,
years,
90, 100 years, and they just know how to build a car.
Right.
And Tesla's trying to sort that out. They've got to figure out like what's the most efficient way to build it. And right now they're still working like a tech company, and I think that's why they've been successful. Mm-hmm. But part of their problems is they just don't know how to build a car like the rest of the automakers just don't really even think about it anymore. Chevy knows supply lines. They know production lines. They know where in the most efficient process. And to your point with the Bolt, you can go get one. I mean, the Bolt was a little late relative to some of the other cars, but when they came out, it came out strong. Mm-hmm. I think Tesla will get there if they have the chance. But right now, it's kind of up in the air.
I think right now you're seeing a very strong case of the hiccups. I think this is something they're going to get past. I think they're going to get where they want to be. I think, their track record isn't great as far as delivering things when they say they will, but they did deliver the Model 3 or the Model S, Model X, the Roadster. They did do these things. So I think right now they're figuring out exactly who they are. And then the question becomes is, do they grow up into this sort of modern Apple, car maker thing, or do they become more a little bit like Uber, which is crazy controversy. The CEO is getting fired. People are angry at them for, their different political reasons. I think this is a crossroads. That's what's up with Tesla. So
yeah,
let's move on to spending money. Great question here. Let's see. Right now, this is a long one, guys, so bear with us. Right now, the reader is looking to buy something for his wife. He's looking at a 2017 Honda CR-V EX all-wheel drive. Pros, 190 horsepower, so he's done his homework. Apple CarPlay, forward braking, brake hold, USB ports in the second row. I forgot how good of a car the CR-V is. Better claimed MPG than some of the other ones he's looking at. He likes the options and the other, basically all of the packaging. I agree. I've seen the CR-V up close. It's an excellent car. He's also looking at the 2017 Rogue. He's looking at the SV trim. All-wheel drive, stickers for about $22,600. Cons, it's located in Virginia, 3 hours away from him. He can't find one cheaper than this $22,600 price he's going for. He wants the navigation. Locally, he can only find one for about $25,500, which includes his best price, and no nav, no CarPlay, no USB ports in the second row, 170 horsepower. So he's buying this car for his wife, who's a new driver. is the CRV that much better of a car that he should pay that much more money? Here's some of his reasoning. I'll sum this up quickly. Both have the boring CVT. It is what it is. I agree with you. Both also have remote start. He's looked briefly at the EX35 from Infiniti. Bad gas mileage. It's got that bulletproof 3.5 liter V6. Also looking at the used Acura MDX. Basically, his research, the tea leaves, and it sounds like kind of his gut instinct is going to the CRV. Do we think we should direct him to one of these other options? Strong other option would be the Rogue, or stick with the CRV?
CRV. I like, out of everything he mentioned, you do make a strong case for the Rogue, and I'm not a big fan of the Rogue, but I will defend it in just a second. Don't worry about the MDX. Don't worry about the Infiniti. They're fine.
Yeah, don't even think of that.
You're going to hate the fuel economy. They're not that much nicer than the new CRV. The new CRV interior is phenomenal. So yeah, don't worry about those two. So talking Rogue versus CRV, you said the closest one, that 3 hours away, I wouldn't dissuade you from that. If it's several $1,000 price difference, you're going to spend maybe a couple $100s in gas, like the round trip.
Yeah.
Don't let that dissuade you. If you really want the Rogue, go for that one that's 3 hours away. And there's a substantial price difference between that and a CRV. Personally, I think the CRV is that much better of a car. You mentioned the CVT. I think Honda makes the best CVT around right now. That 190 horsepower really does a lot to offset the weird rubber band effect that you get with a CVT. Yeah, it's to the point where like a CVT in that or the Civic or the new Accord, which I've driven all three of them now, would not dissuade me from buying the car. I think the interior is way better. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which does a lot to make up for Honda's okay but not fantastic infotainment system. The USB ports in the second row is great. And then you get to the other stuff. I think nobody does interior packaging better than Honda. The car is huge on the inside and so well laid out. There's cubbies, there's pockets, there's little panels everywhere. You can hide stuff. CRV is really, really good. That said, the Rogue is far cheaper, and it's not terrible. I don't think Nissan makes a bad car. I just don't think they make anything really outstanding right now. But the Rogue is the best-selling vehicle out there, and you could, if you can find one for 22, you might be able to like work them down because they want to move them. Nissan's really pushing for sales right now. It's got plenty of space. It's a fine vehicle on paper. If this is her first car, if you're worried about her like maybe trashing it or anything, Nissan might be a little less expensive to repair just because there's so many of them out there. Parts are going to be a little cheaper, but I would go with the CRV.
I would also go with the CRV. I think it's just a better vehicle. It's better. It's got more features. It's got more features that a lot of people like these days, like Apple CarPlay. It's got a more powerful engine. It's got some of those braking features that I think I really applaud Honda for putting on this vehicle. Like you don't see them on at that price point from vehicles from like Chevy, So I really give them credit for what they've done with the CRV. I like the interior. To me, this feels like an Acura this feels like an Acura, like now. Like I wouldn't even say this is like that sort of faint praise. Like this feels like a luxury car from a few years ago. This is a really nice interior, especially if you step up to one of the slightly nicer trims. Great interior. I'm with you, Reese. I like the Rogue. We just had one in the fleet last week. It's a great vehicle too. I think I like it a little bit more than you do, just judging by your tone here. I think, if you step up to some of the upper trims in that vehicle, I think it gets nicer quickly. It looks good, it drives, it handles, I think, a little more nimbly than the CRV. It seems like a smaller vehicle. I don't have the dimensions in front of me, but it feels just a little bit more nimble. But when I weigh all of the options here, I would totally go CRV. So.
Yeah, stick with CRV. We're on the right track to begin with. I don't think the Rogue makes enough of a case. So,
right.
Good choice.
Good choice. Good research too. If you want to spec it out, check this out on our Car Finder. We can show you, different comparisons if you still want to look beyond the CRV or the Rogue. But like we said, CRV, it's a way to go. So thanks for watching and listening this week. It's been a great show. We've enjoyed doing the morning edition here of the podcast. It's Wednesday. If you didn't get up, if you're a little tired, it's still just after 7 on the West Coast. If you're choking on your oatmeal thinking, gosh, I missed the Autoblog podcast, it's fine. It'll be on your phones just shortly. And of course, the replay will be up on our site and on all of our social platforms. So Reese, thanks for being here. It's always fun to co-host with you.
Yeah, it's always fun.
All right, I'm Greg Migliori. Thanks for watching and listening this week. We'll see you next week.